Hey everybody, it's the morning after Easter. Church services at the cathedral in Cusco have just gotten out, and I'm going to go for a little walk through the central historical district of Cusco, mainly the San Blas district, which is really popular for everyone that comes here. So come along with me and let's go see what we can find. All right, I'm going to start off in the Plaza de Armas. The Pachacutec fountain in the middle has been there for a long, long time, but the statue of the most famous Inca emperor on top is only about 12 or 13 years old. Before that, I think it was, well, I'm not even going to guess, but for a long time there was a statue of an Apache Indian on top. Yep, you heard me right. There was an Apache Indian that was bought by the director of the main university here. He bought it and it was sent here and it sat on top for a long, long time. I'm going to make my way towards the Jesuit church. The sun's not going to cooperate very well today because it is really bright for a change. I'm going to walk up the steps of the cathedral so I can do a little filming on the with the sun to the side instead of straight in my face. I don't know if it's going to help much, but it might. I'll be honest, I can barely see what's on the screen of this little camera. Pretty much just the outline of the Templo del Triunfo up ahead. This particular chapel, and it's pretty large for a chapel as big as most churches, is where the last battle between the Incas and the Spanish conquistadors took place in the main central part of Cusco. What it's called Templo del Triunfo, because triunfo means triumph in Spanish, is because the Incas tried to burn this down, or it might have been, and I'm not going to lie, it might have been the church that was here before, but the Inca or the Spanish conquistadors were inside and they somehow survived. So normally this is the entrance for tours and for people who want to walk through the cathedral itself, but it's still probably a little early. I'm guessing it opens at 9 if it's going to open today. There are morning church services going on, so they may not open until that's over with, but I assume it will open eventually this morning. Across the way is Calle Triunfo. This is usually a lot busier street, but since it's still fairly early in the morning and a lot of tourists are off on their day trips, it's reasonably empty this morning. Like most of central Cusco, almost every street is completely lined with things related to the tourist industry. Shops for souvenirs, hotels, restaurants. Everything here centers around tourism, in this part of town at least. after you cross the first street, you come on Calle Hatun Rumiyoq, which basically means something about the street of the big stones. The first thing you'll find on the right is the Archbishop's Palace Museum. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely worth the money to go in and see. Quite a bit of art there. You get the chance to see what parts of life in Cusco before it became a republic, when it was a colonial Spanish colony. The wall on the right side, while incomplete because all the top section is gone, is an original Inca wall. People make a big deal out of there being lots and lots of these in Cusco, but to be honest, this is it. There are two corner sections in other places, but in central Cusco there is no other example of this kind of wall. The stone of the 12-angled stone is the most popular spot here. People like to get their picture taken. All the businesses in front of it make a big deal. But to be honest, there are lots of stones with more angles, and it's really not as special as they make it out to be. Once you pass the 12-angled stone, more and more shops. You can go down to the right, this little street, and there are more shops and more wall to see. If you go all the way down where the road turns, you get a really good view of the well, what I guess you could probably call the backside of the Palacio del Inca Roca. It's really interesting. You get a chance to see how the Spanish reconstructed a lot of the wall there after the 1650 earthquake. The next street is Calle Choquichaca, and I'm going to go up the big hill up ahead, which is called Cuesta San Blas. It is really tough. It's even hard for me, and I live here. I can't imagine how hard it is for people who are having difficulty with the altitude. This is a brutal climb up. It's even worse when there's lots and lots of traffic, but I kind of chose this morning hoping to avoid a lot of the traffic, especially the tourist traffic. Again, like everything in San Blas, it's full of shops. It's really cool because it's extremely colonial. This is not made up to look like a Disneyland exhibit. This is pretty much how it's looked for several hundred years. In fact, if you see old photos from 100+ years ago, it doesn't look much different at all. When you get to the top of Cuesta San Blas, you come upon the San Blas Church. You can go off to the left down Carmen Alta, which is a really nice street, extremely full during the evenings. Lots and lots of shops, restaurants, cafes, some hotels. It's really a pretty interesting little walk. Definitely worth going down in the evenings. There's hardly anyone here now, except for this big group in front of me. Beside the church is Plaza San Blas, which has a really beautiful fountain. Probably the best in all of Cusco. I can hear it going now. It's not always running, but the sound is pretty loud. So I can tell when I walk around the corner, I'll be able to see the water. Yep, there it is, the water flowing down the fountain in the Plazoleta San Blas. This is really beautiful sometimes at night They haven't been doing it recently, but many times the lights are on and it's just a beautiful rainbow colored waterfall. I'm climbing up the steps that go up on both sides of the waterfall to a long street called Tandapata. If you go to the right, the direction I'm pointing, it'll take you back to the San Blas market, which has become more and more touristy as they come. But there's quite a few little cool shops there. Some friends of mine who used to live in an apartment 3 floors below me have a sushi restaurant down there. I'm instead going to go to the left down Tandapata toward Sacsayhuaman. Again, this hasn't changed an awful lot since the Spanish controlled this over 200 years ago. Now you can go to the left, but I'm going to climb up to the mirador up the steps to the right. Which is a lot harder. It's a place I usually don't go, but you'll get the prettiest view in town. Fortunately, this little climb is not too bad. It is steep, just you have to go slow. One of the first things I learned in Cusco is the phrase that everyone here knows, paso a paso, or step by step. Take your time, go slow, and never hurry. When you get out of breath, stop. Even locals who grew up here get tired. Whew. Yep, I'm out of breath, so I'm going to take a quick little break and continue on in a few more minutes, even though I only have about 30 meters to go. All right, here we go again. I told the couple up in front who had taken a break that even though I live here, it's still difficult. Whew. 30 meters or so and I'm already tired. It's about, well, it's well over 12,000 feet in altitude. It's not the best view from the glass, but I'm going to go up a little higher in a moment to show you a different view. The mirador at night is really beautiful. The lights of the city are just spectacular on clear nights. A few more steps. How about this for a view? This is another extremely popular place in central Cusco because there are lots of restaurants on the side of the mountain that have incredible views out over the city at night. Okay, I'm going to turn down the left and make my way along the street of Siete Diablitos, or Seven Little Devils. As you can see, graffiti is a big problem here. I don't know what they could do about it, but it just ruins the city. In this part of San Blas, there are a lot of hotels. Obviously, it's really great because you can get a room that overlooks the buildings below and views out across the city. Some of this graffiti is not really graffiti, it's artwork that looks really pretty. I've seen all kinds of stuff all across Cusco, and it can be really gorgeous. There's no telling how old those walls well, actually on both sides are. The adobe walls on the left are extremely common here. The ones on the right probably are Inca. It's kind of hard to tell because a lot of Inca walls have been reconstructed. Even 400 or 500 years ago, they were reconstructed by the Spanish. But this is where Siete Diablitos runs into or comes to a T with the street of Seven Little Angels. And I'm guessing that the Angels won because there's a really cool little fountain here. The water would normally come from up above and flow into this fountain. And there's a cool little relief painting a relief sculpture of an angel. Now I'm going to make my way back down Tandapata. Again, the views are just unbelievable today. It is really a beautiful day. In fact, it's already getting so hot that I'm probably going to have to take off at least one of these jackets that I have on. Yesterday I wore a heavy jacket and then a raincoat on top of that all day long, just about. Not this morning. Sadly, this particular mural is often overshadowed by huge piles of trash. Today is definitely not trash day, so there's none here. Unless they came early this morning and picked it up, because it's clean. Hopefully that's because they're actually enforcing rules about putting trash out early. I always love when people just walk right in front when they could go behind, but you always get assholes like that. Lots and lots of them that tourists don't really care what other people are doing. Even though a few extra feet, a few extra inches is not a big deal. They just walk right in front. Tandapata along here is mostly hotels with a few restaurants mixed in, but almost all hotels. Really nice ones. Just up ahead, Tandapata finally comes to an end, turns to the left, and goes towards the area of Sapantiana, which is really, really popular for good reason, as I'm going to show you. There's an artist who usually works out of the door on the right, but it may be too early for him to be out selling his work this morning, but he's got some really good stuff. Definitely worth checking out if you're here. All right, this is where even this morning it's going to get busy. This big rock on the right side is Waka Sapantiana. It was to the Incas a sacred rock because it actually, and this is kind of hard to explain, but actually was alive in a way. That's probably not in a way, but it actually was alive. It didn't get up and move, but it had a spirit, it had energy. It was, if you take the route to the right along the stream, it will take you to the Aqueducto Colonial, or the Colonial Aqueduct. As far as I know, there are only 2 left here in Cusco, and one's quite a bit out of town. Again, one of the things that drives me crazy is tourists who just block everything, looking at their phones. These steps are brand new. You used to have to walk up the stream bed, and it was unbelievably slippery from the moss that grew along there because it was obviously so humid with constant water running down it. This to me is easily the most picturesque place in Cusco to get photos. Usually on Saturday mornings and many times on Sunday mornings, it's full of people here with professional photographers all dressed up, getting things like engagement photos, quinceañera photos, things like that. This is kind of cool because this wasn't here before, and you really didn't want to try to climb up. Coming down was easy, going up was no fun, but now there's a path with steps. So I can show you some things up here that I haven't even seen in quite a while. Oh yeah, this is much, much better. Bet you didn't expect to see this. An outdoor swimming pool. Hasn't been used in years, but it's still here. Well, the top of Waka Sapantiana is closed off. People go there all the time. They just step over the cable. which to me is kind of disrespectful, but that's just, hate to say use this phrase, but that's how it is here. Seems like every neighborhood in Peru, even if you go deep in the jungle, there's always a football field. Now I'm making my way down to another unbelievably photogenic spot called Calle Siete Borguitos, or Seven Little Lambs Street. This used to be really plain, and during the pandemic, when no one was here, I guess the people along the street decided to fix it up, and they painted the walls. They started out with plants, and then there became more and more plants, more and more, and now it's just full of flowers. It's a really beautiful street, but it is tough to climb. Fortunately, this is almost the last climb I'm going to have today. All right, all the way. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick little zigzag going left and then right up the last little bit of hill that I have to deal with today. Somehow it just makes it an awful lot easier knowing this is it and everything else is downhill or flat. There's a lot of cool graffiti along this last little section. Interestingly, almost completely in very muted colors, black and white instead of the usual bright colors. Once you get to the top, the views are definitely spectacular. I'm overlooking a school right now. I'm kind of surprised there's no kids down there. Maybe they continue to be closed the day after Easter. Now that I think about it, I really haven't seen any kids going to school, at least earlier today when they would have been. Up ahead is Plaza San Cristobal with the San Cristobal Church. See if I can get across the street here without getting run over. Or even worse, having a taxi driver honk at me. Up above is what the story was the original palace of Cusco's or the Inca's first Sapa Inca. Again, everything you have to take with a grain of salt because the sources for a lot of this are questionable at best. I'm going to give you a view on the plaza, which sometimes has lots of market stalls. Today, of course, Monday morning, it's empty, but on the weekends, it is full of people, especially when the weather's good like this. It's a shame there's tin fences down there, which really distracts from the gorgeous view, but can't have everything, and this is a city where people live, so it's not Disneyland. You can see the Plaza de Armas down there. That's my goal for today, and thankfully, everything is downhill from here. I know I keep saying that a lot, but trust me, after climbing up even higher than I am now, I'll be glad to be down there. You can visit the church inside, even though it says museum. I don't remember a whole lot there, but what's really interesting is being able to climb up to the top of the bell tower. There are unbelievably beautiful views up there, maybe the best in all of Cusco. I would say that is easily worth paying just to climb there. Okay, here we go down. I'm going to take the steps down alongside the church, cross a little street, and then make my way down the long Calle Respalosa, which in Spanish means slippery street. I don't know why they haven't fixed up Calle Respalosa better. It gets a lot of foot traffic, especially on the weekends, but during the tourist season, it's jammed full of people. There's an awful lot of potential to make this a gorgeous street, and they have done some down farther below. I won't lie, I really thoroughly hate this street climbing up, maybe more than any other. No matter how pretty it is tough and it's steep. You can see people coming up are going really slow. And most of them, because they're mostly visitors, are having a hard time. Bet this guy lives here. And the businesses along here have done a really nice job of fixing it up with some flowers. And wow, interesting, there's a police station right here. It's a specialized station. Pit bulls are incredibly popular here. I don't know if it's just because people like the breed or if they're for security. I've only been bitten by one, and it was my very first day here. A pit bull that lives right around the corner. Needless to say, in all these years, I've never once gone back down on his sidewalk, even though I see him on other parts of the neighborhood all the time, and he doesn't pay any attention to me. I had a quick right and then another left on Calle Suecia. I don't know why the police are always here, at least these are two police and one local security. There are always several of them here for some reason. Last little bit down to the Plaza de Armas. Calle Suecia has lots and lots of shops, some restaurants. It's pretty tame this morning. After Easter week, almost all of the Peruvian tourists are long gone. They went back home after a week with families and vacations. We'll get the big tourist section coming in about a month, and it'll continue all the way through September and October. Straight ahead is Portal de Carnes, and to the right, I'm not going to go that way, is Portal de Harinas. Harina stands for flour. That's it down there. And carne stands for meat. I'm going to guess, and it's a pretty good guess the way things are still done, even today, hundreds of years later, that it's because along these streets, that when the Spanish carved out doors and little shops, that this is where those particular products were sold. All right, I'm back at the Plaza de Armas. That's it for this morning. So if you enjoyed this little tour through San Blas and Cusco, feel free to give this video a like and hit the subscribe button, because I plan on doing quite a few more like this. I appreciate you watching. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.